We had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
And I look forward to continuing this dialogue in the months ahead. Thank you very much, everybody.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Wake Up America. Wally.
Wake up, America.
Wally,
Go ahead.
wake up. My name's Phil Marie. We got Walter J. Kopaczynski Jr., the Polish
Prince.
Prince of Kielbasa. He is here tonight. We also have online, we have the NSA Whistleblower Kirk Wiebe. Kirk, are you there?
Yes, sir, Phil. Good to see you. Talk with you this evening. You as well, Wally.
Okay.
Great, great. Now, for all the viewers, last week we had Kirk on, and we had the Weisenbergs, and they told this story about being targeted. And what I did was I took the not the first, but the best 4 minutes of what Peter was saying, and I put it together on a short video. So we're going to run that early on in the show to recap for the people that did not watch last week, if they missed it.
Yep.
It's powerful. And then we have a second video, a short video, Kirk. This is right up your alley. Dwight D. Eisenhower, with his farewell address, his warning about the future.
I actually have a copy of it on my computer, Phil.
Absolutely. So we're gonna show. I found 4 minutes of that also, and believe it or not, he talks about technology in the future, which is really bizarre. This was in 1961, but we'll probably show that second video, the Eisenhower one. Everyone, you got to watch this thing. We'll probably show that about 7:30, I'm guessing. So if you want, Wally, I think maybe we ought to start by running that first video of last week. It's choice stuff that I picked out that Peter was talking about, Peter Weisenberg. All right? Is that all right with you, Wally?
Fine.
All right. So, Kirk, we're going to run that video.
Yep, and sounds good, and I'll sip on a cup of coffee and eat some raspberry yogurt while you're doing that.
Okay, while you do that, I'll drink a coffee here, and I'll shovel down some donuts here for my friend Byron. That's also a targeted individual that has a good story about me eating donuts. Very strange. So, all right, Reg. Reg, can we run that video, please?
Story of 2 regular people who were at the wrong place at the wrong time. And it basically started when I was working for Verizon in the Washington, D.C. area. And I worked for the company for a lot of years, and then went inside to do some engineering work and was designing government circuits. And I was in a group. I was really pretty miserable in one group, so I tried to move out of that group. And when I did, that's when this whole thing really started coming down. And it started originally with workplace harassment, the kind that I was not aware of, a form of psychological harassment. And that's when they sat me next to the gentleman who was ultimately arrested, tried, and convicted as a terrorist His name was Hamad Abdur Rahim, and he was arrested in the Virginia Jihad Network case. That's a pretty famous FBI case. The type of harassment that they were doing in the workplace is psychological, and basically what it amounts to is trying to make every day that you work like your worst day. Kind of like the targeted program, when you're a targeted individual, trying to make you never really feel comfortable. And years later, one of my former coworkers told me that harassment at my workplace, which I thought was just Verizon, had been directed by the government. And when I reached out to the White House, I wrote a letter to the White House and then to my U.S. Senator Kay Hagan. When I did that at the urging of the ACLU, that's when we got introduced to electronic harassment, something I'd never heard of prior to that.
And for us, Bill, that happened in October 2011.
Now, Peter, you have a very unique career in the sense that you've actually done work for the Pentagon, correct?
Oh yeah, I've designed circuits. Now, at the time that I was working there at the core company of Verizon in the Washington, D.C. area, yeah, I designed circuits for the Pentagon, Andrews Air Force Base, Bolling Air Force Base, almost all the major government installations in D.C., Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia.
What?
Now, back then, you didn't need a clearance to do it. This was before 9/11, and then everything changed after that. But prior to 9/11, you didn't need a security clearance. Well, I think it's just being at the wrong place at the wrong time. By designing circuits in that department, even before there were security clearances, what I've come to understand is that everyone who works in telecom or in critical infrastructure anywhere, like if you work on the railroad or something like that, you have a blanket clearance. Department of Homeland Security knows who you are just to make sure you don't have any ties or you're not susceptible to be involved with the terrorist activity. So I think just by working in that department, I was on the government's radar. And I suspect that my employer, Verizon, probably told, because I was a vital person in that department. I was really good at that job. I don't admit to being very good at much.
He had a stellar career, Phil, before this happened.
Sure.
And I was in fact, I'm doing that same type of work, but from home now. But I worked in a database, and I was really, really good at that. And I think they were really dependent upon me because we were designing a lot of government circuits. Right after 9/11, we were extremely busy, a lot of FEMA circuits. So I think that's how I got on their radar. And then when I wanted to get out of that group, they tried to set it up so that I would have to stay in that department. Originally, they were going to say that because I'd had some health issues, because that was a very stressful job. So I ended up spending a night at the cardiac care unit. And my cardiologist told me to change jobs. So the irony is that's why I wanted to get out of that department. But originally they had a nurse say that she was not going to let me clear me physically to leave that.
We're back. Sorry, Wally. I was trying to finish a donut and I couldn't eat it quick enough. Kirk, were you able to hear that video?
No, I was not.
Okay.
But I'm pretty familiar with my own conversations with the Weisenbergs, and of course, I was there last week when they were on, so I'm pretty familiar.
Yeah. What I did was I took the part when he talked about working for Verizon and how his co-worker told him it was a government-ordered, targeted attempt on him, and then he talked about where he wrote to the government officials, and then the electronic harassment started, and that's pretty much it. So it was the best part I thought that I could find in that. So we're getting a lot of responses about the Weisenbergs, and I appreciate you bringing them on and giving them a chance to share their story. And it's our story matters at gmail.com. Our story matters at gmail.com is their email address if any of the viewers wanted to reach out to them. So, Kirk, I want to spend just about another 5 minutes on the targeted situation, and then we'll jump subjects and we'll get into other things, okay?
Super.
Okay. Now, a lot of people know that I've been through a lot, and I still have my truck that's bugged. The computers are swapped out. This week, or I should say last week, but midweek, I took the truck cap off of my truck, and I did a little bit of body work, messing around with it, this and that, chasing the rust, and it always seems to attract attention of the local authorities. And God is my witness, the local police don't sit there across the street facing my house ever. Hardly ever. But the moment I take the truck cap off and I'm working on my truck, there they are sitting there watching. And it's even driving, it's an issue. In the days that I drove the truck, where I was shocked more, I was attacked more, so forth, and it's something that it appears that I can't get justice with, but yet the truck still remains, and the items that were implanted in the truck still remain. So it's an ongoing issue, and I'm not going to get rid of the truck, not after 7.5 years of torture. I don't think so, but I just wanted to share that with you, Kirk, that it doesn't take much to create more, how can I say, more torture, so to speak.
Right. I'm absolutely amazed that they will actually park and watch you when you go near the truck.
It's just a weird thing. I mean, this truck alone. I've had people cross the road, smash mirrors with me. I've had 2 different attempts to run me off the road, actually take my life, I guess. I've had metal objects thrown from vehicles going down the highway, smashed the windshield. A week later, I had the same identical thing happen with a white van with mass plates dropping these metal round discs out the window. You could see them bouncing on the pavement, and I've had my tires slashed on the truck, and just endless stuff happening, and it just, when you look at it all, it's just amazing how they're so persistent on trying to break me or force me.
Yeah, I would love to see pictures of the wiring and the components to the degree that you can create them, Phil.
I have great pictures of the computer hub where the computers are plugged in underneath. The schematics on the cover of the hub don't even match anymore. And that was a brand new truck when I bought it. So nobody ever owned the truck. And I have a short video of it shutting off. And it has nothing to do with the GM recall with the heavy key sets and all that, because I've never had heavy key sets. I have one key in the ignition only. So this was, you could see the voltmeter just go from 12 to 0, back to 12 to 0 as I'm idling in my yard, sitting there in it. So I do have some great evidence with that, and I'd be more than happy to share the photos. As a matter of fact, the barcode that's on the new computer hub is kind of creepy. It's got my initials and my last 4 digits of my Social Security.
You're kidding.
That's it. That's all it says on it. It's got the barcode, the numbers, it's got my initials and my last 4 digits of the social on it. That creeped me out. I showed the sheriff's office up in New Hampshire, and they just said that it's probably used parts that they put in there, and it's just a coincidence. But I never authorized nobody to do any work like that on the truck. So
the odds of the Social Security number, yours, as well as your initials, being on the same barcode, you're probably more likely to hit the lotto.
Or you're more likely to get hit by a tornado.
Yeah, you're right.
So for all the viewers, believe it or not, Kurt is such a great patriot. He's under a tornado watch and warning down there in Maryland, and he's taken time to be on our show. So we thank you again, Kirk.
Absolutely, Phil. Wouldn't miss it.
Yep. Now, one other thing I want to thank you about is joining. Is the way that you've joined us and you're trying to help us out. The people that are being targeted, harassed, tortured, tormented by the government and by God knows what other entities out there. And I thank you so much, Kirk, for being who you are, being a true patriot, and seeing the truth of all this horrible stuff going on.
Well, I'm actually frustrated by it, Phil, because I don't feel like I've done much yet. I hope to do much, much, much more that's of help. We really need people to pull together on this. And then when we get enough people, there's power in numbers, then we can begin to find maybe a technical expert or two to take a look at your truck and to listen to some of the stories, and we begin to build that following and credibility, and then maybe we can find someone in Congress.
You there?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. We do have, for everyone watching, we do have new cameras here at the studio. Well, we got a third new one, and we actually have tech guys still working on the equipment, but everything's working fine here in the studio. So it's nice to see MetroCast upgrade some stuff. Kirk, let's jump to the this United States court document that you had sent me in regards to a Richard Kane.
Right.
Richard Kane, let's see here. He filed a lawsuit on behalf of himself and his two children who are targeted through implants that are in his and his children's bodies, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What do you know about this case, other than just of what I guess we can read on it?
Well, it's this document, and I seem to remember, Phil, and it might have been Kate or another lady in Chicago, Kate Ryan, or a lady in Chicago that sent me a news item about this. And if I remember correctly, there were some very interesting pictures of these little implants. I mean, they look like big pills, big tablets that you would take for various afflictions. And I was just amazed that people would go to these extremes. But we know in our society there are a number of cases in history where the U.S. government has knowingly experimented on people. We know that they targeted blacks for syphilis experiments. They've targeted people for not mustard gas, but other kinds of biochemical weapons and effects on people without their knowledge. So I don't want to make it sound like it's rampant, but it's happened. The government is willing to do it. And I just want to know what's behind this, who is behind it.
Well, that's the question that we all want to know. And but while we're on this subject, Kirk, I'm going to show the viewers the New Hampshire House bill that went into law February 2009 in regards to microchipping people. I'm gonna show it on my computer, so I'll kind of narrate it here, and
Okay.
And let's see what we get here. All right, for all the viewers, this is House Bill 686-FN, This is the 2007 session, House Bill 68FN, and this is up in the state of New Hampshire. And this bill right here prohibits the human implantation of a remotely readable device without the individual's informed written consent. All right? They actually put this into a law up there, and there was a lot of either talk or intimidation to try to intimidate me that maybe I was microchipped. And then it also says prohibits electronic tracking of another individual. So they're saying this organized stalking is illegal up there, but they're not enforcing the law, apparently. But I know it's a felony. It's a felony if anyone's implanted without their informed written consent. So, thanks, Reg. So anyways, Kirk, there is states that are, passing laws and everything. So
That's terrific to hear.
yeah, it's one of those things.
Well, one thing I found interesting in this document, by the way, this legal document, this lawsuit against the government for implanting, the items are traceable back to Fort George G. Maryland, Fort George G. Meade, Maryland. Now, guess what's at Fort George G. Meade, Maryland? The National Security Agency.
Oh. And who knows all about the NSA than our friendly guest here, Mr. Kirk Wiebe, correct?
Yeah, well, I'd like to think that I know something about NSA. I cannot claim that I know everything because there are so many secret projects that none of us knew about that go on daily there. They pretty much control your access to data and projects based on your work assignment, and no one knows everything that's going on. Hopefully the director and deputy director do, but almost no one does, really, out of thousands of employees.
Hey, Kirk, we're gonna do a quick summary of the photos you sent me, okay?
Sure.
Okay, so Reg, you can put them up. All right, what I'm looking at here is the Air Force picture. What is it, 1966, is it?
I think 1966, somewhere between 66 and 67 when I was in Japan.
Okay, you look like a fine young man, smart man. Right, Wally?
Yep.
Huh?
Yep.
Wally thinks he served around the similar time, correct?
Well, I got out in 62.
Oh, so you're older than Kirk.
Yeah.
He's an old timer. Wally's
Yeah.
an old timer.
Yeah, and I didn't have 3 stripes either.
Yeah, the only thing Wally had was 3 strikes when he played softball.
I was stationed on an Air Force base myself, you know.
Were you?
Yeah, but I wasn't in the Air Force. I was in the Army. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's picture number 1. Let's go to picture number 2. This says Kirk Wiebe receives meritorious unit from Director NSA William O. Studeman?
Yes.
Okay, what is that about, Kirk?
Well, when Reagan was president, you've heard a lot about Obama's executive orders. One of the executive orders Reagan issued was to find a way to keep foreign strategic weapon systems at risk. What that means is find a way to figure out how to take them out if we ever have a conflict. And I was fortunate, along with about 70 people working for me, to make some major breakthroughs in that arena, and it was good enough to earn the Meritorious Unit Citation, which is really a Director of CIA award, although The actual presentation was done by the director of NSA, Admiral Studeman.
Okay. All right, let's go to another photo. Here you are. Reg, camera 3 again. Here you are with a Meritorious Civilian Service Award, 1991 maybe?
Yeah, actually 91, that's right.
Okay.
And that's the same general work, except that's NSA's award, unique to NSA, the second highest award NSA offers.
Wow, okay. And that was what, spying on everyone?
Well, actually, it was work done on strategic weapons that were aimed at us, and they belonged to a foreign country, so it had nothing to do with people in the U.S. other than an effort to protect them.
All right. And we got one more picture, and that is the USA Today 2013.
Yes, that's the more recent picture. Bill Binney, Tom Drake, and I, along with Jesselyn Radak of the Government Accountability Project. This is the young lady and very brilliant attorney and a real go-getter who offered all of us pro bono representation in any court proceeding involving the act of whistleblowing. So if anyone had pressed charges against us, she would have stood between the government and us. And she, in fact, herself was a whistleblower.
Now,
So we were invited in to talk to the USA Today staff in a production where they filmed us, recorded us, and did a video production, fairly lengthy, and then also did a piece for printing in USA Today.
now, are you still in contact with her?
Jesselyn Radak?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Do you think maybe sometime you could get her to call in with you?
Absolutely.
Boy, that sounds great, Kirk.
I mean, if you'd like, of course, I think you've had Tom Drake on before, haven't you?
Yep. We've had Bill Binney, Thomas Drake, and we're hoping to get them back on again this spring, maybe.
Good.
Yep. Now to keep the show moving along, Kirk, you were quoted, and I'm going to quote you here.
Yep.
In an email about the VA whistleblower retaliation scandal, where the medical records are being used against whistleblowers, all right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you wrote precisely why the NSA, FBI holding everything about us is so dangerous. It really is about controlling people.
Yeah, it is. And you know, oftentimes I've alluded to the techniques that the Gestapo under Hitler's, in the Nazi regime in Germany, the techniques they used to subjugate the population. And of course, we've heard about the Stasi in East Germany. We've heard about the KGB in Russia. I'm afraid that we have it right here in our own country now. It may not be as widespread, but it's certainly here. And I would point to some things that make me believe this. First, we have the IRS, Lois Lerner and that crowd showing complete willingness to treat certain groups differently than the entire population. This goes counter to the Constitution, and the government has no authority to do it. But they did it. And we know that Tim Clementi, former FBI special agent, said the FBI has access to all electronic communications, past, current and future. There isn't anything they cannot access. Well, if that's true, that means they're in collaboration with NSA. And so I would say both of them have information collection assets. Add to that the current effort by Health and Human Services Administration to modernize medical information. And what that means is the government wants access to yours and my and your entire audience, everyone's, children, adults, grandma and grandpa, all of our medical information. Now you start putting the medical with all the banking, with all the emails and web browsing and phone calls. Phil, there's nothing they don't have in one form or another. And so that's one fact, and that alone is extremely dangerous in the hands of the wrong people. But what bothers me more is you have the willingness by some in government to actually use that information. And now we have another example involving whistleblowers inside the Veterans Administration. What in the world is going on?
Well, I tell you what, we're going to run a quick 4-minute video of Dwight Eisenhower where his warning about the future. So for all the viewers, pay attention to the words and pay attention. I re-looped one part. He talks about technology, how the people with technology and the scientists, the elite, will control what our government, basically. It's bizarre. This guy said this in 1961. It's absolutely amazing. So,
by the way, Phil, that address in video via national television was the first farewell address given to a national TV audience by any president.
It was amazing. I've only heard the short version about we need to fear the military-industrial complex. I did not hear the stuff after that where he talks about the future, the technology, and all this, and it's really creepy. He even talks about computers instead of blackboards. Yeah. It's amazing. So we're going to run that video, and we'll be right back.
Super.
A vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment. Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together. Akin to and largely responsible for the sweeping changes in our industrial military posture has been the technological revolution during recent decades. In this revolution, research has become central. It also becomes more formalized, complex, and costly. A steadily increasing share is conducted for, by, or at the direction of the federal government. Today, the solitary inventor, tinkering in his shop, has been overshadowed by task forces of scientists in laboratories and testing fields. In the same fashion, the free university, historically the fountainhead of free ideas and scientific discovery, has experienced a revolution in the conduct of research. Partly because of the huge costs involved, a government contract becomes virtually a substitute for intellectual curiosity. For every old blackboard, there are now hundreds of new electronic computers. The prospect of domination of the nation's scholars by federal employment, project allocations, and the power of money is ever present and is gravely to be regarded. Yet in holding scientific research and discovery in respect, as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite. It is the task of statesmanship to mold, to balance, and to integrate these and other forces, new and old, within the principles of our democratic system, ever aiming toward the supreme goals of our free society. Yet in holding scientific research and discovery in respect, as we should, we must also be alert to the equal and opposite danger that public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite.
Quick 10 seconds. I couldn't even write that. Kirk, did you get to hear it that time?
I sure did, Phil.
Oh,
and
good.
every time I hear it, you almost hold on to each word, and you keep relating it to what we're seeing today. And we're seeing it in spades, Phil, right before our eyes.
Well, what really got my attention was where he said public policy becomes captive to the scientific, technological elite. And
Absolutely.
And I re-looped that, and I paused, and on the video I wrote, what did he say? And then I re-looped it, I played it again, because that's really what's going on in today's world right now.
Absolutely.
And 1961, this guy is warning our country, and it actually goes on beyond that, too. I was amazed. It talks about don't be selfish and spend our kids' future and blah, blah, blah. It's a great farewell address, and all the viewers, I suggest you look that up on the internet, watch it. It's just amazing. So, and everything you've been saying, Kirk, is accurate as far as with the government agencies. And I had a note here about the government overreach from all government agencies, and it's coming from all directions. And basically, our Bill of Rights and the Constitution is just being violated, like almost daily.
This government here that we have right now, they have used government agencies to destroy people. More whistleblowers got arrested by this government agency. Now, you got Lois Lerner of the IRS who goes after certain groups, and who's defending her? The Justice Department. The Justice Department is being used to hide facts and keep facts away from the people, and that's not right. And now they refuse to persecute her and go after her. It's bad enough we have to use private agencies, law firms, to go and get information so we can find out what happened with the IRS. And most of it is hidden. That's the same with what Hillary's doing too. Nobody has abused our government agencies any more than the President of the United States we have right now. It's horrible. It's horrible. And it frightens me because that could destroy this country. We got
absolutely right, Wally.
Yep. We got three forms of government, right? The judicial, the legislature, and the presidency. He's overcoming the judicial, and he's also overcoming the legislature. He's going around them completely, and that's unconstitutional, and they should be impeached. And I'm not for impeachment, but he could be impeached very easily if people want that. There's many, many things he's done that he should be thrown out of office for. But it'll never, never happen, and I don't want it to happen.
Kirk.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you want to comment on that, or do you want to move on to the next subject?
Well, there's a couple things I'd like to say. Wally is absolutely right. We're in trouble. We're in such deep trouble in terms of our constitutional republic and the way it was meant to function by, as envisioned by the founders. And frankly, there's a parallel problem here. Not only are people willing to use the power of government against the people, but we have a corrupt nation. And this isn't just the government. It's in business. It's everywhere. Think about the people you've known, the stories they've told you. And there's organizations that study integrity and honesty and have done so for decades. And they'll tell you that today, 90% of the young people coming up through high school and college are willing to cheat, whether that's cheat on their resume, have somebody else take a test for them because they don't like a subject, but they need it to major in their area of study in college. We have a cheating society. When you put the willingness to use power together, mix that with the willingness to cheat, we've got the perfect storm of negativity in terms of potential to oppress people, whether at the workplace, the organization level, whether in government, and they're all using it for one reason or another. We're in trouble.
We used to have immigrants come to this country who wanted to become Americans. We got immigrants coming here. They don't want to become Americans. They want to set up their own society within the country. And that's got to stop too. That's got to stop too.
Absolutely. This is all they used to talk about. You gentlemen remember, your audience remembers, many of them. We used to talk about the fabric of America. That fabric is being shredded, and it's not being repaired. Moths are eating holes in it, and those are those groups that don't come here to integrate into the society and honor American values. They're here to carve out their own kingdoms inside the country.
I agree, Kirk. I want to move on to the power grid.
Yep.
Okay. So, obviously, what is the vulnerability against a cyber attack? Are we at risk? And if so, how bad?
Well, I've been boning up on this a little bit to see the latest, and it's a sad story. I think Wally's concerns are absolutely spot on, because actually there are no bright spots to point to. If you look at government policy, it's all mixed up, it's poor, it doesn't really address the issues. When you survey industry, the power industry, they'll admit that they have some aging components. In other words, when stuff gets old, it's vulnerable. It's not hardened against cybersecurity attack or even physical attack, especially things called large power transformers. These things weigh 200 to 400 tons. They're immense, they're heavy, they're hard to transport, and they're expensive. And companies don't buy many of them and have them sitting in their inventory. So if somebody takes one out, you're going to be waiting a year and a half to get it replaced because they're customized in their manufacturing process. They're not mass produced. So this reflects the lack of standards that we have across the national grid. We have a lot of sub networks supplying electricity. The computerized controls are vulnerable, and that's not just for the power grid, that's for a lot of things. We're just not doing a very good job. You hear the politicians talk about the need to provide for cybersecurity, but I don't know what they're doing. I mean, they're just getting a lot of money, and I don't know where it's going, and we don't hear much about it. There's very little accountability, and then we hear this company got hacked, that company got hacked, and we don't even know whose responsibility that is. Is that the company's responsibility, the government's responsibility? These are all questions that have to be answered.
Kirk.
1/3 of companies, by the way, Phil, aren't even notified of threats. They have no way to receive notification if our government, our intelligence structure, discovers a threat to the power grid. 1/3 of them don't even get those alerts.
Kirk, do you know about the spider web, the spiders policy that the government has?
I can't say that I have. Wally, describe it quickly.
Okay, this is a program that our government is going to set up for all military installations. They're going to put up solar panels in all our military installations so they can have their own power if the grid ever gets shot down. Now that's going to cost hundreds of billions of dollars to get this going. I think it's a good idea, but it's a very, very expensive idea. And what's happening is it's gonna give the energy sources to the military in case something terrible happens. That's the program that I got. I looked it up, and I got a lot of information on it, and it is on the web. They talk about it, and I think it's going to be very important for this country.
You know what I would hope they'll do is if they put up a robust solar panel backbone, if you will, really a lot of them in geographically dispersed places. One would hope that they would not only use that electricity, which means they're not competing with the civilians, you and me, for electricity when they need theirs, but they would be willing to actually, if not sell, provide, give, since this is all built with our taxpayer dollars, they ought to give it back to the people in peacetime.
Kirk.
Pump it right back into the power grid. I wonder if they're going to do that.
Kirk, I have a kind of an off-the-wall question, but I don't think it's that far out of the realm of possibility. But obviously, this government's into controlling people and putting everyone almost at their mercy. Do you think that our own government could actually shut down the power grid and then maybe blame it on a cyber attack to maybe initiate some sort of another new sort of Patriot Act or martial law or something like that? Do you see the possibilities of that ever happening?
None of us, not you, not Wally, I'm sure, likes to think that our government would do something as heinous as that. But do I think it possible, given that we've seen the willingness on the part of the government to do other things that are heinous? Then yeah, you'd have to say it's possible. All you have to do is get the wrong person in power, and they cook up a cockamamie strategy to bring the people to their knees. Yeah, it would be easy to do. I mean, imagine trying to live without electricity for even a week. most people would not be able to do it.
Exactly. It would lead to a breakdown of society. We got 4 minutes left, Kirk. And again, this goes quick. I know I showed a couple videos, but they were worth showing. Real quick, what is this thing, Jade Helm, going on in the South, this military training exercise where the special ops are blending in with the civilian public and the helicopters and heavy equipment, all this stuff? What is this all about? Why are they training amongst U.S. citizens on U.S. soil? How can that be helpful for other venues across the world?
Yeah, let me address that quickly. I am going to give it the benefit of the doubt. Here's why.
Okay.
Over my lifetime, especially at NSA, and NSA being subordinate to the Department of Defense, and watching other countries do their military exercises and drills, I can tell you that it's fairly commonplace to for militaries to attempt to mimic the areas, including the geography, the climate, the temperatures, that they think they are likely to find themselves in real combat. So if you look at Southwest U.S., that sounds a lot like the Middle East to me.
Sure, sure.
You know, in terms of climate and that sort of thing, the type of issues such as dust storms and sand and that kind of thing that get into engines and motors. And so you want to test all these things, including the people, and their ability to maneuver. Now, as far as being around cities and towns, that too smacks of anti-terrorism to me, because anti-terrorism today really doesn't just function within national borders anymore. It's across international lines. And these guys don't line up on a front so much as the Nazis did, and warfare that we used to know when it was carried out by a nation state, where you stake out a line, you have a right flank and a left flank. That's almost gone. You have little pockets of flare-ups and movement and mobility. So it makes some sense to me, Phil, in terms of trying to get the guys to think about the challenges that the new kind of warfare brings to bear. And
Sure.
so I would say it's probably a good thing.
Sure. I just got shocked in the privates because of that, asking that question, Kirk.
Oh, my God.
That's all right. But you know what? I don't pay much attention to a lot of this conspiracy stuff. So people can take it really far. And but I was just curious what you known. We only got a minute left, Kirk, and I know that you were very concerned about the military-industrial complex. And what are you calling it right now? What's the new name?
Benny and I and a couple of the other whistleblowers are referring to it now because it's morphed a little bit, gotten a little broader. We call it the Military-Industrial Intelligence Complex.
Okay.
Because the intelligence budgets and the efforts to gather all the world's data, including ours, is huge. Billions of dollars are going into it.
All right. Now, hey, we're starting to fade out. You did mention, though, there's two people that are opposing Marco Rubio's stated desire for a permanently authorized NSA mass surveillance, and that's Rand Paul and Ted Cruz oppose that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Kirk, we're fading out. It's always a pleasure. We'll be in touch with you very soon, and we got to have you back again. Probably as soon as you would like to come back. That would be great.
Outstanding, Phil. We'll stay in touch. My best to everyone.
Yes.
Thank you for helping us.
Thank Kirk, and God bless you. God bless all the viewers. God bless America. Next week, JB, retired state trooper Jim Brady. He will be here in studio, and he's fired up. So tune in next week. Good night.
Thank you very much, everybody.
America.